I will be the moderator tonight, and we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Then I'll read the warning for the school district. I'll turn it over, and then we'll go from there. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, I will read the Rutland Town School District warning, and then I'll turn it over. The legal voters of the Rutland Town School District are hereby notified and warned to meet in person at Rutland Town Elementary School at 7:00 p.m. on Monday, March 2nd, 2026, to discuss the following matters to wit. Meeting information can be found in the GRCSU and RTS calendars on their respective websites, www.grcsu.org and rts.grcsu.org. Number one, to hear and act upon the reports of the Town of Rutland School District. Number two, to hear and discuss the proposed school district budget. All citizens are invited to attend virtually and provide the school board with comments and ask questions concerning the proposed school budget. Number three, to transact any other business that may legally come before said meeting. At the close of business, the meeting shall recess at 7:00 a.m. Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026 at the Town Hall Center, Rutland, for voters living on the west side of Route 7, and to the elementary school gym on Post Road for voters living on the east side of Route 7. To vote by Australian ballots on Articles 1 through 2. The polls will open at 7:00 a.m. and close at 7:00 p.m. Articles. Number 1. Shall the voters of the Rutland Town School District approve the school board to expend $11,506,760.44, was the amount the school budget has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. The Rutland Town School District estimates that this proposed budget, if approved, will result in per pupil education spending of $14,056, which is 3.85% higher than per pupil education spending for the current year. Number 2, to elect other school district officials as required by law. A school director for the term of 2 years, school director for a term of 3 years. The legal voters of the Rutland Town School District are further notified that voter qualifications, registration, and absentee voting relative to said special meeting shall be approved in chapters 43, 51, and 55 of Title 17 Vermont statutes annotated. Said persons and voters are further warned and notified that pursuant to 17 VSA Section 2680, Article 2 constitutes a public hearing on the proposed budget. Adopted and approved at the regular meeting of the Board of School Directors of the Rutland Town School District, duly called, notice, and held on January 2nd, 2026, dated at Rutland Town, Vermont, just 20th day of January 2026. And at this time, I'll turn it over to the school board.
Thank you very much. So we have just a few minutes of video to get some information on the budget. And we'll welcome any questions. And at that point, thank you.
What is the takeaway message for increasing property taxes or school taxes? What did we hear on that video? What is the increase as a percentage from year on year?
Year over year is 22% property tax increase.
22%.
22%.
So whatever I was paying this year, it's going to go up by 22%.
Yeah, I mean, there's a rebate as well, depending on your income and the housing value, the way Vermont slides the scale. But yeah, that's we're estimating our property tax increase to 22%. There's two parts of your property tax bill. There's one's municipal, which you'll hear about in a little bit after we're done. The second part is the statewide education tax,
Sure.
which is what we're responsible for.
So what was the increase last year?
It was a decrease of 19%. So
okay.
there's a few things, there's a lot of things involved in Vermont tax rates where I'm not sure where you're from, yourself born.
Houston.
Huh?
Houston.
So probably Houston, if you guys have a school district, you're raising funds, you guys create a budget. Houston is responsible for raising the amount of taxes that Houston spends on their kids. Vermont in 1997 created Act 60, which we publicly, statewide, fund our education. So it's not just what Rutland Town needs to spend, it's what it is throughout the state. And through a per pupil, equalized per pupil count, as well as a common level assessment, what we need to raise here in Rutland Town is one aspect of the formula. The other formula is what everyone else is doing around the state. So we actually send our money to Montpelier.
Yep.
They decide who's going to pay for what, and then they send it back. So Rutland Town, we're going to send more money to Montpelier than we're spending locally. So the main takeaway for us was we added in the close to $12 million budget, we added about $42,000 of new money. The rest is inflation from last year and salary increases. That's it. But because of the formulas and how the state funds education, we're going to see a 22% increase. But it's not because of what we did here. We didn't increase our budget at all.
So, but the net increase then is minus 19 plus 22.
Yeah. So we try to show at the end, if you net what we looked at from tax rate from 2022 to today, we've only seen about a 3.5% increase because it went up 3 years ago, it went down drastically last year, and it's going to go back up. So you kind of look at what we've done over the last 3 years. And again, most of that is due to the formula, not due to the increases we've done at the local budget level. So there's a lot, it's a steep learning curve.
Okay then.
Yeah.
So is it actually going to go up 22, according to the governor, 10%?
So each community is going to be different. The state legislation, as well as the governor, may consider buying down the rate like they did last year. We basically, they took $100 million out of the state budget and bought down property tax rates last year. Money we don't have.
Brian, can you help us out on that?
I was hoping to kind of be incognito on that. I do believe that there'll be a buy down of some $105, $110 million. So it's hard to predict town by town. Colin's right. Everybody's going to have a little bit different landscape. I think it's going to wind up being closer to 3 or 4% on average throughout the state. And I want to compliment the school board here. I think they did a great job holding the line. There to be commended. So I'll be voting for it.
When is this formula going to change?
That's another very good question. The task force that we had working this past summer, I don't want to say punted, but they didn't come up with the exact map that we were hoping they would. They kind of threw it back in the legislature's lap. So governor's been pretty clear, though, that he won't sign a general fund budget, unless the education thing is done. So it's going to take another 2 or 3 years before it's implemented and up and running. But hopefully by the end of the time that the legislature adjourns this spring, or it could be summer, there'll be a plan in place to do that. It's not going to always be a popular plan either. There'll be different maps with
No, we
different
can't go
schools.
22% every year, 20%.
I don't think that's sustainable.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a few things.
Are you what? Well, again, we've reached the point where we have fewer kids in our K through 12 system than we had the year before. So, and fewer taxpayers to shoulder that burden, and it's a puzzle. There's probably 7 people in the state, maybe Colin's one of them, that actually can explain the formula. It's a very complicated formula, and it probably needs a lot of work.
Yeah, but I mean, the number of people paying property tax hasn't gone down. The kids have gone down.
Well,
So whatever the dollars are, they're still spread amongst all those poor single people that also own
Yeah.
property. So I don't understand why it would go up by 20%.
well, I'm sure the school board would be glad to provide some light on that, but I'll tell you the healthcare costs have continued to rise, and that's the main driver, I think, in anything that we're talking about.
Yeah, I had a few things I wanted to point out, but I just wanted to clarify this chart. Because you mentioned the thing about the 3.50 over the last 3 years. This chart is a little confusing because it doesn't label the years. There's like 5 points on there, so I don't know if you're meaning 5 years or a span of 4 years. But if I did the math, it seems like I took the 1.68 divided by the 1.57, and I tried to divide it by 2 and try to divide it by 3. I didn't arrive at the 3.5, but it seems like it's a little over 2 years span, like year to year. I just so we're talking the right number. I'm not sure if that's right. I come up with 7% increase. And if you divide it by 2 years, 2 years is 3.5. So it's just so that's a little more correct. One thing I wanted to point out, I noticed most people in here are like me, not everybody, but senior citizens. So one, as far as the income sensitivity, not all, but a lot of seniors are the ones that tend to benefit on that, myself included a little bit. So I just did a rough calculation. So on our current tax year, we got, a few hundred back, but it ended up being like 12%. So if you match that against the 22, like people have said, this is like very confusing, but if you know some of the moving parts, I've been here 30 years, so I've been following some of this. So that's one good thing. The other thing is I do my own taxes. So in the federal bill, the 2025 taxes, they added a form after the big, say beautiful, ugly, whatever you want to call it, the big bill that nobody read, but they voted for it. That bill, there's let me find the form here. This benefits seniors, most people in this room. So there's a new form called Schedule 1-A on the second page on the bottom, Part B, it's called Enhanced Deductions for Seniors. So you normally get since 2017, you get a standard deduction, and if you're over 65, you and your spouse get so much money added to that. This is enhanced on top of that. So for each senior citizen in your house, you get $6,000 deducted from your taxable income. That's $12,000. So depending on your situation, that the percent that equates to. So basically, if somebody's in the 10% tax bracket, the $12,000, $6,000 per spouse is going to take off $1,200. So that could be applied to whatever this 22% increase is. So it's good that we keep up on the laws because they change. So my point is, one of my bigger points is the tax laws have been changing for 30 years in the federal government. When Act 60 was passed, they've tweaked it around the edges, but they really haven't adapted to what's going on in Washington. So, for instance, the Roth IRAs were invented after Act 60. So I was young enough to realized that that was out there and I've taken advantage of it. So by taking advantage of it, it helps me get my income sensitivity. So people have figured that out, but quote, you know, some politicians don't want to raise taxes, but all they do is kick the can down the road. So rather than talking about redrawing maps, we've already tried to reconsolidate. I don't think it's going to have to work. Look at back 30 years ago, they were talking about, well, we don't want to raise the sales tax because of Connecticut River haircut. Okay, we didn't want to do it on the income tax, so we did it on the property tax. But housing prices go up and down. It's like a yo-yo, and then we do this thing called income sensitivity. Our politicians have made this complicated, and now they, you know, put it over to a task force to figure this out. So they got somebody to point a finger at. Like, let's look at this, you know, more holistically. I don't think that redrawing maps for a rural, I mean, like this, the county that I grew up in, Michigan, has more people in it than all of Vermont. Okay, when Vermont did their, or I'm sorry, when Michigan did their reform of education, they didn't try to equalize the whole state. They just did it county by county because the economy was different in every part of the state, just like it is in Vermont. So we're overcomplicating it by trying to equalize it across the whole state. That's just my 2 cents.
I appreciate that, and thank you for the updates on the tax cuts at the federal level, but the state of Vermont needs to tackle what's in front of us. The federal government doesn't step in and aid us in
I'm not saying that the federal
funding our
government's
public
gonna fix it,
education, and
but we need to.
so some of these, there's some things that come out of the ed fund that aren't directly spent on education. That is the rebates that go to low income. That is renters rebate for folks that don't pay property taxes that are getting renters rebate. That's coming out of the ed fund. So we at the local level set a budget just like every other town, district in the state, and we send that number to Montpelier, which is the money we need to raise to publicly fund all of our education. From that, that's when they come up with the rebates. They're taking money out of the ed fund prior to us funding our schools. That's not, then they're backdooring their ways into these calculations. That's what's got to stop. And we're here we can only control what we can do in Rutland Town.
Right.
And
I just want to say,
I understand that.
I will support.
I know you don't like maps, but over the last 10 years, we've been asked to voluntarily consolidate, and Vermont's not doing it. So each town has to do their duty. We do that here. We have 355 kids. We have average class sizes above the average in the state. We have costs well below the average in the state. We're doing our job. The rest of Vermont needs to step up and do what's right for the state, because we're sharing this cost. And if we weren't doing it here in Rutland Town, I'd be the first to say, hey, something needs to change. But other towns need to step up and decide, are they spending too much? Could they consolidate? And that's what we've been asked to do voluntarily that we are not doing, which is why the state is coming down and probably at some point going to force consolidation unless towns realize that maybe our small school doesn't need to exist anymore because it is not helping. That's the task that's in front of all Vermonters right now.
That be left up to the towns and not have the state telling what towns, like, our democracy is being undermined. That, like, let's just be honest, our vote really, the outcome of our vote is really irrelevant to what you guys are asking us. So you're asking us to fund the school, which has basically nothing to do with the 22% increase. So you guys are being constantly put in an impossible situation that is outside of your control. And it's like, what are we really voting on? We're really not voting on our Rutland Town School. We're voting on funding a bunch of other things. And so the whole thing needs to change. And that school consolidation thing, that's not the answer. A lot of places did consolidate. We didn't see any savings. And all we saw was loss of local control over people's schools.
And it costs more in the end. Look, I may be old, but I was a mathematician and I spent 30 years as a teacher when I wasn't a mathematician and did it. So I can still do arithmetic. And let me tell you, if the school is a certain level and the kids go down, that doesn't change the whole total budget. It may change the cost per pupil, but it makes no change to the total budget. And if we're willing to still pay the total budget, we don't care what the cost per pupil is. In fact, if it has fewer kids, the kids will all be smarter. So, if redistricting, I have never in all my 85 years seen it work. I've always seen it wind up with lower scores of the kids and higher costs because they need programs in order to deal with the kids of these big schools who spend an hour getting to this big school. So I'm adamantly against doing anything to the Rutland Town School. And I don't have any kids in it. I just like kids.
Yeah, I just want to say, I do support, I'm going to vote tomorrow for this budget. I support you guys 100%. I was here 2 years ago and we had the same discussion. We had a different person from Montpelier come here, talk to us during the town, the select board part, and then walked out when you guys came in, and we never got to ask them any questions. So I support what you're doing. I'm going to vote for it because I don't think we should be hurting the kids based on what's going on in Washington. I'm just saying that this bill, at least this funding system has been around for 30 years and we've just tweaked it, but we haven't really solved the problem. And we've limited just the property tax. We try to income sensitize it. And you can do other things like consolidate more and more and more, but you know, you're not going to have kids on a bus for an hour, you know, in some parts of the state. Because
Volunteers from the community.
right.
And they play a role in why our kids do so well.
Yes, this is for Brian. Brian, what about the CLA? Is there any way to correct that? Is the legislature looking at that as a factor? Or that seems to be the driving force behind this increase, is the 22% based on property values that obviously we would need to do a reappraisal, which is going to be costly for the town. So any thoughts?
It's certainly a component of the property tax. There's no way around it. And I don't know if I can blame COVID 100%, but it certainly drove prices up when you had people sight unseen willing to spend double and triple what the normal cost of a home would be. So it pulled everybody up. And if you haven't done reappraisal lately, and I think you fall either 10% above or below, you have to make adjustments in that common level of appraisal. And that has a lot to do with property taxes. So I don't know where that's going to end up. I know there's a lot of local listers and appraisers that want to keep, you know, their own fingers into it. And there's a movement at the state level to make it a state function. And I have yet to see too many things that become state functions work too well. That's
So how do we help them do that? Well,
well, I'll vote the way I can vote. There's 180 of us in the legislature, and we need to reach out to the other 179, I guess.
that's on the bus and we'll print.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's ever been talking about closing Rutland Town School, by the way. I don't think that's been in any conversation either.
And then any map that I've seen that's come out that's still being talked about, Rutland Town would still control its school choice. So again, at the statewide level, Rutland Town isn't being targeted. We're here to talk about Rutland Town. Right? We look at our school class sizes, look at our actual cost per kid, we're well below the averages. Our school, as much as you want to talk about hearing that kids are failing, kids in Vermont are not failing. Kids in Rutland Town are definitely not failing, especially compared to national averages. Things are going really, really well. Things are out of our control. Healthcare is out of control.
Yeah, but that's not 22%.
Healthcare's been up 17% the last decade.
So
that's a driving factor. And to be fair, our budget's 79% of our budget's people. It's the teachers. It's the people keeping this building going. It's the people educating our kids. That's what we're funding. We don't have this crazy budget of random stuff out there. It's people that are here to raise our kids and educate them. And healthcare has been out of control. And we're paying them living wages. They probably could continue to go up, and they should. That's what we're here to do. And these are also folks that are spending money in our communities, that have kids in our community. So, you know, consolidation needs to happen, but it also has consequences when you're laying off teachers. It's teachers with kids and where are they gonna go? So it's not an easy problem to solve. We're just trying to focus on the local level. Are we funding this budget to what we need? We cut all the fat in the last decade and we bare bones it, and we still want to reward our teachers and give what we can to our kids. And we've done that. I hope you guys can show up and support that. We can't change the state. We can work with Ryan, who's awesome. And the governor's tactics are, you know, he's got to do what he's got to do. He's got to set a line somewhere.
Back to the arithmetic. 22% of one line item in the budget does not result in 22% of the whole budget.
And again, the formula was in our favor last year. Again, we didn't add to the budget last year. We had the same budget we had last year. We saw a 19% decrease. CLA was in our
To
favor.
go through the budget and find out what we could cut out that we don't need.
My private.
I
jet.
would volunteer.
Yes, sir.
On average, whether it's in the state of Vermont, across the nation, any, the amount spent on healthcare is between 15 and 18% of any school board budget. That's on the total. So let me finish. I know you. Let me finish. You've had a lot of time to discuss what you want to say. The important thing to remember is, to the gentleman's point, healthcare is out of control and it is driving costs and making education unreasonably expensive. It does not represent 22% of an increase, and it doesn't represent 22% of the overall budget, but it does represent, and that is between 15 and 18%. I'm pretty good at math myself. I've served as a public school administrator for 25 years.
Okay.
So I sat down, did budgets, and I know. So we could take that line by line and we could do the math and we would probably find out that it falls somewhere between 15 and 18%, just right off the top. If that were not part of what was assessed to the education budget, the conversations that we would be having would be different. I can't say how exactly because it's too complicated. However, I can say with certainty that the conversation that we have every year around education would be different. That is one of the things that needs to be looked at in terms of how we provide healthcare in the state of Vermont. That's my opinion, humble opinion, and how we provide it particularly to school staff, because that is not sustainable. I don't know the figures. I've been retired now for several years, and I don't know the exact figures, but I know that there has been double-digit increases in healthcare since I retired. I can't tell you if that's 10, 12, 18, or whatever, but it's probably on average 12 to 13% over the last 4 years. It's just speculative on my part. But somebody can go and check to find out exactly what Rutland Town or the state of Vermont has had for an increase in healthcare for school employees, etc. Okay? That's probably
Can I just
not.
be clear, the healthcare cost is handled outside of our purview, right? So,
It's in our budget, yes.
well, I just mean. in
Yes,
terms of, like,
it's
well,
negotiated separately, but it impacts
Yeah,
the,
totally.
the district's budget. The issue is, if they were going to go and do that, they should find a separate mechanism and not put it on the backs of school boards to actually address it, because they no longer have any control about how that is taken care of, because it's now negotiated statewide. That was another complicating factor that started probably 5 or 6 years ago. I remember, actually, going back, it's probably going back to 2016, 2017, so we're talking about almost 10 years. And that
I'm in your corner.
it creates a complication, but it does represent a sizable, regardless of the personnel costs, that represents a sizable chunk of personnel costs. And that is something that the school board really has no control over. Yes, they do negotiate a local budget with their association, but the contract is overseen
primarily by the state negotiators. Two sets of kids. And that makes the challenges at the local level more significant.
It is cool.
And I just want to make one more note. 22% is where 22% is on the tax rate. It's not
That's right.
on the budget. So I just want to,
Yeah.
we could, if you wanted to carve 22% off of our budget, you know, it would be extremely substantial.
It's the bump from $1.44 to $1.67.
Yeah. So the 22% is in fact the tax rate, but that's not in fact the increase in our budget. So I just anyone else? Appreciate the insight.
Yeah.
The conversation. It's great to see.
So what happens if if everybody votes no to send a message to Montpelier, or no, that doesn't send them, I mean, it sends messages.
So it's certainly a prerogative. It's something we went through 3 years ago now. If this town votes no, then we have to reassess, come up with a new budget to bring back to the voters.
Okay, so it really just affects you guys more than anybody else.
Correct. And we should have to pass a budget by July 1st. If we don't, then we get an opposed budget, which is 80 or 85% of last year's budget, which at that point would cause us to borrow money.
Is it?
But,
90.
well, yeah, we would have to reconvene, relook at the budget and bring back a new budget for it. But again, we went to 3 years ago now. Hopefully that doesn't happen.
Right,
But,
I mean, I'm not saying that I was going to, I just questioning whether if the problem is not Rutland Town, if enough people vote no, maybe not just Rutland Town, but everywhere, no to all the budgets, then eventually something has to change at state level, or?
and I heard you guys are new, right?
Right,
Within a year, that's awesome
Well
that you guys are here. But again, that over a third of the budgets failed. This will be coming up in the 3rd year statewide when they enacted Act 27, which is kind of a new rendition of Act 60, which kind of threw us back on our heels again. And over a third of the budgets failed statewide, which made Brian's job a lot harder. But again, back to that forced consolidation is that we've been in this panic mode for 2 years, and I'll speak frankly that not much has happened. We went around and around about let's draw a map, let's have this voluntary consolidation, and we're still in the same position we were 2 years ago. So those folks that maybe voted no 2 years ago that to send a message, the message wasn't heard, and the change has not happened. I know Brian's been working hard. There's certain legislators up there, but Vermont deserves better out of our leadership, and that's what we need at this point. Because again, this isn't today's problem. This has been happening for years, and we had that whipsaw from Rutland Town went through 3 votes. A lot of other districts did. And to what end, we have not seen any major or even minor changes come down to the funding mechanism. We borrowed money. We borrowed $100 million last year. There's inklings that we're going to borrow another 100. But that's your money. That's just coming from a different part of the state budget that we should not be buying down the road. We should be fixing the problem, in my opinion. I'm not up there, but
Is the
it's just,
line
you're just kicking cans everywhere. Like we don't have, Vermont doesn't have a corporate backing tax rate to borrow money and have money coming in from other sources. It's on the backs of property taxpayers. So we got to fix the problems ourselves. And we've shown we haven't. So now we're getting to this do or die situation. But I'll get off the soapbox.
Is the line item budget for the school in the book, is it broken down by category or?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. You can go through there. And again, we feel, I mean, we do our best to build the right budget for our kids, for our staff, but it's not lost on us that it's going to impact all of us. We're all residents. We're all seeing, I have property tax bill, and it's crappy. Well, as you support the kids, and don't forget the staff is a big part of our economy, and they do a great job. So hope they don't get punished for the inequities of that's going on with the state. And again, we try to trim where we can to make it work. But
I said, if I'm understanding this correctly, just to simplify it, the reality is you guys could have proposed 0% increase, and we would still be looking at double-digit property tax increase because of the state and CLA,
That's right.
right? Just so we're clear.
Yes. The hardest parts of this formula is it's not per pupil. We don't have it up there. It's per equalized pupil. So Vermont counts kids differently. Kids in poverty count more. Kids with second English language count more. So it's not that $14,000 number you're going to see this all across the state. Rutland City's advertising 12.3 versus our 14. That's not per kid. That's per equalized kid. So different kids in the state count for different.
Sure.
So if you want to look at the actual cost, I mean, that's part of it. CLA is something, it's a 3-year running average of the average assessed value in your, so ours jumped massively because we knocked out 2022 and we added 2026. That's point COVID was very good for property owners and your value, but obviously your assessed value is going to go up too. And then the yield. These are numbers they come up with every year. And it's about, here's the total pool of money Vermont needs to spend on education. And now it's like, who's going to pay for it? Let's come up with a formula. Those are things we can't predict. We can't tell you what that's going to be next year. We can only tell you what our budget's going to be, how many kids we have. And then how many teachers and staff we should have for the appropriate number of kids. But there's so many moving parts that, again, I live in the same house I lived in last year. We have maybe plus or minus one different kid in this district. We have the same budget plus $42,000, and my property taxes are going up 22%. Nothing else in my life has changed. That's just the nature of being in Vermont right now, and how we decided to. And we decided in 1997 this is how we're going to fund education. So we do feel very bad though. I mean, we're all in this together. So the good news is we have kids that are great. We have a school that's great. We have a community. If you guys do have the time to come in here and see the energy we have here and see how every kid matters and see them interact with the staff, it's pretty fascinating. I have 3 kids in this school and my kids love to come to school. It's not a fight every day. So we have something really special here. It's just navigating the next 5 years and what's going to happen.
My daughter's a freshman at Rutland Town, and she's coming back here for Rutland City high school. She's coming back for Yes Plan, the 2-week end of year program, because she wants to get back and see some of the other kids and the younger kids. That's the K-2 program. So neat here. And I just kind of took that Rutland City's gone to the finals and they won an OT by 1. And, and I would say there's at least a half dozen Rutland Town alumni on that girls team. So
It's the girls'
nice
team.
little applause to them. Yeah,
Wow.
that's cool. And it just shows what this school does and members of the community that they put out. So that's what I hope to do when we build this budget.
Yeah, the system is not broken here. The system is broken in Montpelier. The state of Vermont is the broken system. And somehow it needs to be fixed.
All right, anything more?
Just encourage your neighbors and your neighborhood to go vote at their appropriate place tomorrow. The more people that can share their voice, great. You guys got our phone numbers. You can email us, text us, and don't text me. Call, email anytime throughout the year too. And again, please stop by if you can, or check us out in the marching band and just see what our kids are doing in action, and also see the parents and the community members that don't have kids and how they're volunteering. And it's a great aspect. As much as the taxes hurt, it's also keeping our property value. So
If we vote the budget down, we're still paying 22%.
Yes. I just want to add too that I hope that you'll keep informed. It's so good to see you and communicate with you. And there's different ways to find out what's happening here. There's that QR code that we keep pushing so you can subscribe to the GRCSU web informational page and it'll come to your email. You can delete it if you don't feel like listening to it, or you can open it to find out what's happening at the schools in the whole district, but particularly Rutland Town School. And of course, PEG TV is our videotapes. So, or contact anybody on the board for information. Please keep informed and let us know what your thoughts are.
All right, well, thank you all. I'll turn it back over to the moderator. Please.
Thank you. All right, that concludes the schools portion of it, and then we will transition over to the town portion.
Thank you all.
Okay.
All right, so we will now start the town portion, and I'll start again by reading the warning. Then I'll read the articles one by one, see if there's any questions, and then I'll go on to the next one. Rutland Town warning. The legal voters of the town of Rutland, Vermont are hereby warned and notified to meet at the Rutland Town Elementary School on Post Road on Monday, March 2nd, 2026 at 7 p.m. to discuss Articles 1 through 23. At the close of business, the meeting shall recess at 7 o'clock a.m. Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026 at the Town Hall in Center Rutland for voters living on the west side of Route 7 and the elementary school on Post Road for voters on the side of Route 7. To vote by Australian ballot, Articles 1 through 23.
Over there.
Polls will close at 7 o'clock p.m. on March 3rd, 2026.
Yeah.
Article 1.
Richard.
Shall the voters authorize the select board to approve $1,433,718 and no dollars for use towards the operation of the general fund budget to be offset by anticipated income and local tax option tax receipts from the state of Vermont, to the remainder of which if any be raised by taxes?
Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
All right. Good evening, folks. My name is Mary Ashcroft. I'm on the Select Board, and we're going to take a little time and use our department heads to explain a little bit about our budget. I'm not going to take a lot of time. You've probably had many hours to peruse this lovely booklet, and there's good information in here. So if I could direct your attention to pages 7 and 8, we can start there. The town side of what you're voting on represents roughly 50% of the total spending. The school budget's 11.5. Our budget is about 4.2 or 3 million. So let me start with, on page 7, we have outlined the general budget, the highway, police, fire, and recreation budget. And if you go to the far right column, those are the proposed budgets that you'll be voting on tomorrow. And in the very, very far right, there's in finer print, it shows what the difference is, what the variance is from previous year to this year, or to the proposed year. Bottom line, our spending is going up. No surprise. Our spending on the town side is going up by just about 14.5%. However, our revenues are very strong and they're going up as well. And we've explained some of that on coming pages. So the amount to be raised by taxes has gone up by about 7.41%. Okay, we can get into detail about that. Yes, health insurance is a driving factor, and it hit the town as well as the school, and we can go into some of those. But we also took advantage of something. We created a buyout option for town employees on their health insurance. So if they were covered under town health insurance and they had a spouse or a family member who could cover them on their insurance, we allowed the employees to opt to go on to the other person's health insurance and not cost the town money. In exchange, because we saved money, we split what we were saving with the employee. So the employee got 50% of what otherwise the town would be paying. Good deal all around. We didn't have a lot of employees take advantage of that because not all of them were situated. But that is one way we were able to keep a cap on some of those health insurance costs that we would have had. The other thing we did, as we started budgeting, we agreed we had very good employees and we wanted to keep them. So we did at least an across the board 3% COLA, cost of living increase for all employees. And you will see that reflected in all of the budgets. There were also a couple of places where we increased above the 3% because these were folks who had been due for a bump up in pay. They were critical to the operation of the town. And we also wanted to remain competitive in the job market out there because, especially, for example, our police officers, highly competitive market, and we needed to pay them more in order to keep the good officers that we have. So that's the general overview. Let me now go to Article. Thank you. Article 1, thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Moderator. On page 8 and into the top of page 9 are how we anticipate seeing money come into the town to help cover the costs of the general budget. So we had a couple of bump ups there. We have good rate with delinquent property tax collection. We continue to collect about $200,000 a year on people and businesses who have not paid. And when property changes hands, that's often when we can recoup property taxes that have gone delinquent. We also have a good delinquent property tax collector who's been doing his job and has been bringing in revenue. Interest has been good. Interest paid on money in our bank accounts. So we're anticipating about $100,000 in interest. A couple of other things, transfer station coupons. Yay, there we are. Increase in that as well. And probably the biggest increase on the top of page 9 is our local option tax. It's a 1% tax on sales and use and rooms and meals that we can charge on top of the state sales tax. And that has been performing very well, and it is our target to actually exceed what our expectations were for last year. So we anticipate $1.4 million in revenues from the local option tax, which will help very much defray the costs that we're showing you today. I can go through a few things under the expense line. I'm not going to go line by line, but I will point out that one of the extra salary increases we gave was to our town clerk and treasurer, who is one person holding town clerk and treasurer positions. And that office has been inundated with lots of things, including this year, 3 elections that they have to set up on top of doing all of the other functions that the town clerk and treasurer do. So in addition to her 3% raise, Carrie Clark is getting another $1,000 per position increase. And similarly, Bill behind me here, Bill Sweet, our town administrator, we keep sending more and more items to him to take care of. He's getting a 3% increase, but he's also getting a $2,000 increase per year on top of that. So those are 2 of the increases that you will see. The transfer station is functioning very well. If you go to page 10, there are several, about 2/3 of the way down, there are several items there that relate to our transfer station. We had Larry Delvinary come up last time. I'm not sure I want to have him come up this time, but he's here to answer questions.
Thank you.
But he keeps a very firm hand. If you've been to the transfer station, you see that it's very well run. And we're trying to cover costs as best we can with transfer fees, but the cost of getting rid of our waste has gone up, and you'll see some numbers there as well. I think I will turn, as salary goes up, municipal retirement goes up. So there's an increase in that. Our lister's office has seen a slight decrease because we were able to shift over to the listers some work that had been done by an independent contractor on personal property tax. We have a personal property tax in town, and we had hired a contractor in the past to do it. Our new team of listers, or our team of listers now, has taken that over, so we don't have to pay the contractor anymore, and they've done a good job at that. There was a question about why don't we reappraise and bring our common level of appraisal in line and avoid some of the problems that we're seeing on the school side budget increases. There are so many towns that are out of whack with their common level of appraisal that And there are so few appraisers statewide who can do the work that when we put out a request for bids, or when our listers did, nobody bid because they were swamped with work. So the soonest we anticipate being able to hire somebody, I think the last estimate was 2029, and I think that's now been pushed back. We also have a slightly outdated system, the NEMRIC system for keeping track of town finances and the listers grand list. We're going to have to upgrade that in order to attract more of those bids from the very small group of people who do appraisals. So we're up against a problem there. And that's another thing. There was rumble. I think somebody mentioned whether the state should take over the reappraisal process. That would be one thing. If the state did, maybe we wouldn't have this problem trying to hire somebody when there's no one around to hire. Okay. I think I will now turn it over the rest of the general budget expenses to Joe DiNardo. I'm sorry, I didn't introduce folks here. Joe DiNardo is on our select board, as is Sharon Russell and Matt Getty. Kurt Hathaway, who's very much a regular and a good participant, is on his honeymoon, and we excused him from tonight. So, Joe.
All right. Okay, so, excuse me, we'll start on page 11. That's the expenses. We start out with town hall electricity, and there are no radical changes as you go through page 11, top to bottom. A few decreases, general insurance, but most of the expenses reflect the cost of living and usage for different portions of our town operation. As Mary noted, the health insurance, there's some changes there, slightly down. Each department has a health insurance column, so as we go through the budget, you'll see that. On page 12, again, we start off with the planning commission and some of their stuff. Barb's here tonight if anyone has questions. Pretty much, this is redundant to some point from our first presentation, but you'll see it all reflects pretty much the same numbers, slight increases. One note is on the fireworks. We projected this amount of money for $15,000 because of the country's 250th anniversary that takes place on July 4th. The lowest quotes we've had for fireworks are over 20,000, and getting anyone to do fireworks around 4th of July is impossible this year. There's just not going to happen. And the board has decided that we will seek alternative. The city has a group looking to do fireworks, and we may contribute with them. Also, there's some other plans about celebrations going on around 4th of July in different areas of the community, our town and other towns, so we're working on that. Otherwise, the continuation down that page, probably the highest increase is the software and that type of stuff. And as the town grows, we have more programs. We have more stuff that we rely on, and for different offices and different places. So those increases continue to just reflect the cost of what technology costs us to have and provide.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
Could just reference the page and line item that you're on so that we can.
Sure. Okay. So that's page 12, and yeah, and the line item is 35,512. That's the software. There is a new item that we have put down, and that is the very last item on page 12, and it's reappraisal expenses. This budget has always showed an income for reappraisal and never an expense to go with it, so it kind of throws off when you're trying to balance it. And what that is the state provides a certain amount of money per parcel to the town for reappraisal. So we put that money, the listers put that money into a reappraisal fund, and that will be used when the reappraisal takes place. So we won't have to come out with a whole bunch of money on the cup stuff. And I don't, in here, there will be under the listers report what that fund balance is at this time. So that takes care of, pretty much pages 11 and 12. Are there any questions on pages 11? These are pretty much run of the mill, just operational expenses and other stuff. Okay, on page 13 at the top, there is some education for the listers. That's gone up a little bit to help offset the new duties that they're taking over. Mary referenced some of the new stuff they're doing, and this will help with that. And we've also added administrative training, again, for education and further training so that our staff knows what the latest things they need to know and how to do those. And the final items are the new public safety building expenses. These expenses are best estimates. We've been in the building approximately a year, and based on usage of the various items, water, the sewer, public propane, electricity, maintenance, these are what we came up with figures. These numbers will adjust over the years as we grow into the building, and we anticipate what these costs will be. So this gives us a total general fund budget of $1,433,718. That will be offset primarily by the 1% options tax and some of the other income. And we have an anticipated income of $445,332 over expenses based on our projections. But again, we caution everybody that these are projected income and are not guaranteed. So we try to be a little conservative when we establish this budget. Thank you. Yep.
I noticed that the electric is more than doubling.
For the building?
Yeah.
Yes, there is. In last year's, we moved in February. So we had electricity from February to the end of June. This is a full year. So, and again, yeah. So this is why I said this will be a ongoing change as we grow into the building and figure out what the costs are to operate the building. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, Article 2. Shall the voters authorize the select board to raise by taxes and not to exceed $763,786 and no dollars for use towards the operation of the police fund budget?
Everybody.
Good evening.
Jonas is set to retire here in about 20 days. It's not here tonight, and I will be giving a presentation at the best I know. So my name is Ted Washburn. I've been in the town for 13 years now. I have just under 18 years in total time on. Been a very good career. Hope to be able to finish it out here. Going over our budget. Anticipated income is the first section. Police reports, we budget $1,500. Predominantly, we do a lot of crashes. We charge insurance companies for crash reports. So the police reports is what we get back from insurance companies every year paying for police reports. Because there's time dedicated to responding, on-scene investigation, follow-up investigation, photos, videos, all that stuff. So we felt it was appropriate that other towns are doing it, that we can do it. Slide down to SRO reimbursement. We are fortunate enough to have a full-time school resource officer in the building here when school is in session. We work with the school to the best of our ability to try to figure out how much time they actually spend here. When they are in the building, they get reimbursed for it. School is either on vacation or the SRO is out for vacation, sick leave, things like that. We pay that, not the school.
That is what we anticipate we'll get back from the school for that position. Moving down to the next one, which is expenses. Social Security, the formula is given to us by the town clerk and treasurer. We just follow her formula to come up with that number. Police chief salary is a 3% increase from last year to this year. Outside detail is nothing. Deputy chief, you'll see that it says 10,000. I'm going to skip ahead and then I'll go back to it because it'll make more sense. First officer, SRO, third officer, fourth officer, all line items are the same pay. $70,700, $200. $70,720. As Select Board Chair Mary Ashcroft said, trying to remain competitive, finding officers, keeping police officers is a challenge these days. It's no different from us than it is with the fire service or emergency medical service. Not that many people want to do this job anymore. So the ones that we can find, we want to retain them and we want to make sure they're taken care of. We looked around at towns around us, found what other departments were paying people with similar time on that our people have. Case in point, we have 2 officers. They both have 9 years on apiece. Our SRO has over 30 years in law enforcement. I have just under 18, and Chief Dumas, I believe, has close to 40. So for the officers' sake, we said, well, let's be competitive with what's around us. So we looked at it, and the board agreed with us, and we set all the officers at that same rate. With that being said, Chief Dumas is retiring. The town was gracious enough to give me the nod that I will take his position when he retires. And sometime throughout next fiscal year, I'm going to be looking to promote somebody. And that 10,000 in the deputy chief line will just be added to the salary line item of the officer who gets promoted. That track for everybody. Makes sense. So with that being said, overtime makes same at 20,000. Child care contribution, we have no control over that. Again, that's a formula that we're given and we just contribute whatever the formula says we have to contribute with. Office staff / admin is Lynette Gallipo. That is a 3% raise. The next page, communication and contract. So we've added contract to that link. A lot of what we have found works for us to do overtime contracts because it makes it so we don't have to come up with that big out-of-pocket expense right out of the gate. So for communication, that's our department cell phones, that's our digital radio service, and that is our access to state email / our computer-aided dispatching system. All of those things roughly equate to about 10 grand a year. So subtracting 10 from 20 leaves us with about 10 grand to get through the next fiscal year. Who knows if we have to have it fixed, but if we do, we need to have some money. Supplies, uniforms staying the same at 5. Equipment and contracts is the same thing. Our contracts for our body cameras / in-car cameras, all that video has to be stored in the cloud now, which is expensive. Our tasers are expensive, and our fingerprinting machine has yearly maintenance costs. All of those are factored into contracts and equipment. Going down to fuel maintenance, we level funded that. Training, we dropped that by $1,500. Health insurance, all over that. We have to assume that everyone's going to have the family plan. If they don't, change, just, but we have to go high and anticipate that everyone's going to have that. Municipal retirement is up, but again, that's something we control. And the K-9 program is again stagnant at 4,000. Yes, ma'am.
Why is there no allotment for liability vehicle insurance?
That is handled through BLC. So the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, the town
Okay.
insurer, that goes through general.
I was gonna have to watch the future.
If I may, Mr. Moderator, there's two potential sources of income that aren't here. One is traffic ticket fines, traffic fines. Those are collected, but because we don't want to look like we're trying to meet a budget number when we're out passing out tickets, that income goes to the general fund. So you'll see it under general fund and not under police fund. And we often are called on to send our officer, canine officer, Rooster, and his handler to other towns to help with that. If it is a federal drug interdiction case, we may be sharing some of the proceeds when the feds take in money and other things. So we can't put that in here because from year to year, we don't know how much it is. But I think it's safe to say Rooster's more than paying for his $4,000 in dog food. So that's where we are.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Article 3, the voters authorize the select board to ratify taxes in an amount not to exceed $1,211,866 and no dollars for use towards the operation of the highway fund budget.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Dave. I'm the new road commissioner. This is my fourth winter. Been a fun one. So we'll start off with the income. $120,000 in Vermont state aid. That's something that the state calculates the formula for our road miles. It fluctuates. They do a different calculation every year. So we just went with 120,000. State grants, there's $200,000 in there. I'll add some more to that in a second, but that's for replacement of a box culvert on Stratton Road, just outside the city town line. When we move down to expenses, winter de-icer, I added 5,000 to that. Price of salt's going up every year. I'm going to say next year it's going to be $100 a ton. We are actually in the process of trying to do something different and kind of reduce our dependency on salt, but we'll see how that goes. We're level funded for the next couple salt shed utilities. We increased that $300, and you can see that the actual for last year was just shy of $900. Level funded the next line, winter miscellaneous. I went up $500 on that just for equipment, whatever we need for taking care of the winter roads. We're level funded for the next several lines. Under 045026 new equipment. I'm trying to be more proactive than reactive with the winter stuff. So we are looking to put up some weather stations around the town that we'll be able to access from a computer, from a phone, wherever. And it's like a subscription thing. So none of this stuff is free, and like was said earlier, technology costs, and so there's quite a big increase there. Level funded. Then we get to culvert replacement. That's where the $200,000 state grant, we drop that down, because if you don't, then the math gets kind of wonky toward the end. So that the engineer's estimate on that bridge, that culvert, is $500,000. I added $150,000 for out of my half of the budget. So there's 200,000 from the state. We need to come up with 300,000. I added 150,000 to come up out of this budget, and the select board will come up with the other 150 wherever we land for the remainder of replacing that culvert. So that number looks pretty big, but there's $200,000 in there that drops down from the top. Next page. retreatment, was paving. I added 50,000 to that. This was 300,000 a bunch of years ago before I got here. I believe it was due to COVID, it was reduced to 250,000. I'd just like to get that back up. The cost of paving costs more. And that just goes up every year. It's like everything else. Level funded the next few, then we get down 045051. Then we get into the Social Security. Again, this is all stuff that we really don't have control over. Municipal retirement, health insurance, engineering services, winter contractors. A lot of this stuff is all either level funded or the 3% pay raise for employees. Level funded needs, vehicle equipment and maintenance. We're doing a lot of the vehicle maintenance in-house now. We have a young guy that actually went to school to be a mechanic. I've been doing this for a long time. I worked for the city for 18 years before I came here. So we're doing a lot more of the in-house mechanic stuff. So I added $5,000 to that, just for filters and so on and so forth. Building maintenance, I added 2,500 to that. We're in a really nice building up at Northwood, and I said the last time I was here, I worked for the city for 18 years, and they are the king of deferred maintenance. And I don't want to get into a situation where we're falling apart and we can't take care of them. So I got an extra 2,500. And childcare contributions, again, is what it is. And that gets us to the end. Any questions?
I just had a question, regarding that culvert project.
Sure.
So I mean, obviously it's a pretty, substantial part of your budget for the highway.
Right.
So, and it kind of sounded like it kind of, we weren't expecting that. We came upon it. Is there a process, and maybe it's not realistic, but is there any type of schedule or, designated inspection? So on some of these larger projects, we kind of would see them coming and have the option of spreading them out, over, a couple of years versus absorbing that all in 1 year.
Right. So we are doing bridge and culvert inspections. We've identified actually probably the next one. This process started in 2023. It takes forever to get this done because you got to go through the state with hydraulic studies and engineering and the whole thing. So, we sort of knew this was coming. Anything else? Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Article 4, shall the voters authorize the select board to raise by taxes an amount not to exceed $266,444 and no dollars for use towards the operation of the fire fund budget.
Evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Chris, I'm the fire chief in town. Not too many changes with our budget this year. And pretty much stayed the same. We added a couple things, lowered a couple things. So, vehicle feeding, we left at 8,000. Vehicle maintenance, we left at 28,000. Building maintenance, we left at 8,000. Electricity, 4,000, stayed the same. Telephone and internet stayed at 4,400. Water and sewer, we dropped down to 1,500 from 2,000. Heating fuel, dropped it down $500 down to 5,500 from $6,000. Mostly because Joey talked about the new public safety building. This budget's just for the center office station, not for buildings. Office supplies dropped down to 7,000. At CBA maintenance and equipment testing, we left at 10. Equipment, we left at 40,000. Insurance, we bumped up to 4,500. That's out of our hands. Salaries went up a few thousand because of the 3% increase. Social Security went up because of that. 9,200. Training, we left at 2,000. Uniforms, we bumped up $500. We've got a few new members, so we're trying to get them equipped. Medical fiscals, we left at 500. Fire prevention, we added $500 to. Dispatch services, we left at 3,000. Dry hydrant, 250. Miscellaneous, we bumped up $200. Administrative salaries went up because of the 3% increase. And up there, out of our hands, went up $14. Any questions?
Yes, sir. Just a minor one. It's on line 055032 insurance.
Yep.
I see that for 2024-2025 budget 4,000, 2025-2026 budget was 4,000, bumped it up to 500. But the actuals on 2024-2025 is actually less than 1,800. I'm wondering what the rationale was. It was an increase of 45. Got one increase in
New people volunteer.
those are liabilities.
Yes.
Okay, so the membership will double. Was there a required these prorated costs?
Yes. Anything else? That's not a question.
You say that the cost for the building were only for the new fire station?
No. It's for the one in Center Rock.
For Center.
The older of the two.
There's a combined budget, I believe, for the police and fire stations on.
Yep.
Yeah, correct.
Yep. McKinley Avenue, which houses fire trucks and the police department, is under our general budget.
For the utilities.
Is that gonna be permanent? It's part of the general budget.
I think so, Barbara, because it just makes sense rather than trying to split it between the two departments, to have it in one place. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Article 5. Shall the voters authorize the select board to raise by taxes an amount not to exceed $197,570 and no dollars for the use towards the operation of the recreation fund budget?
Oh, well.
Hi, Mike.
Recreation Director. If you look at our anticipated income, we are increasing our charges. We're getting a few more kids playing in our activities, which is generating a revenue for the kids that sign up. Second, we're increasing our pool fees for non-residents this summer to go on par with what's around us. Our resident fees will stay the same across the board. So our daily passes will go up $1 for people that are non-residents, and our family passes go up significantly for non-residents to enjoy our pool. But the other prices stay the same. If you look down as far as our other increases, there's not many increases on mine other than money here and there for different things for electricity, phone. The lifeguard went up because what we're doing this year is we're bringing on an assistant aquatics director at the pool who will help cover a lot of the hours. This pool's open quite a bit
firmly believe we should have an adult there. They're a former lifeguard at our pool, head guard. And they will eventually be certified so that we don't have to worry about recertifying and or certifying lifeguards in the area. So if you're aware of what's happened within the city used to do a job with kids that wanted to become a lifeguard. Well, that's kind of gone out the window now. So everyone's kind of screaming around, and of course, if they want to be a lifeguard, the closest place is UVAC and so we're trying to get this person certified so that we can do all of our own in-house and then charge other kids that want to become lifeguards and potentially have a little bit of income with that moving forward. So that's why there's an increase with the lifeguard salary, because we're adding a position. We also need to come up with our lifeguard pay. As you know, minimum wage went up, so we need to go up in that regard. So we increase a little bit more to keep the kids that we have. So that's the increase. That's one of the biggest increases. The rest of them are kind of simple. The maintenance one went down, but we're also hiring somebody at Dewey, Chuck was our worker there for a long time. He became ill. I did double duty last year. And so now we are in the process of rehiring a part-time person over at Dewey as well. And then there'll be a little left over in that so that the hire, for example, they have a skill set that I don't have. So if they need to work, for example, tree cutting and things like that, they have a skill set I don't have so that I can take them. So that's what the money in there is for. Let's see. Everything, as you know, goes up. Nothing stays the same. Some do, but a lot of things go up. Chemicals, supplies. If you look at the first supplies maintenance, that is what we typically have. And then there is a miscellaneous. You said miscellaneous time. So supplies miscellaneous, you'll notice that there's 0 there because we took 2 categories and made dollars for rather than having 2 different supplies maintenance. We just took those 2 categories. We did the same thing with plumbing. It used to be designated that Dewey had its own line item for plumbing, Northwood had its own line item for plumbing, just put it together as plumbing. So that's why you'll see some 0s across the board on ours. Other than that, looking on that last page, everything stayed pretty much the same. Our line item, the last 2 digits are 03 or 5062 social activities. We now have the senior citizens under the rec department, so we increased that fee. We took it from the general fund and added it to that fund, so that we now do rec does everything affiliated with the seniors. I'm seeing a lot of seniors, no disrespect. Don't see your faces very much at our events. You're more than welcome to attend our events. We usually have a monthly luncheon. And you're more than welcome to attend. There's information all over the place. Just get in contact with me. I'll put your email list. Come and join us for our senior adventure. So please feel free to sign up for that, and or your neighbors, the same thing as well. The only other thing that really went up was that the last one on the bottom was health insurance. Everybody that's full-time has health insurance. I am on my wife's plan. I don't have the intent of taking the buyout of the insurance, but there, in case God forbid something would happen to me and my wife, and then it's already budgeted. As far as that, otherwise my budget should play a little bit of that. Yeah, that's that was.
So what?
Anybody have any questions?
Mike, I see that in 2024, 2025, the actual amount spent on membership is only 300. We've got 1,100. Line item 2,500 for the last 3 years. Line 065, 063. It's about half the way up from the bottom of half the way on my page of health insurance. Now that's 185, 063. Both memberships. Yep, memberships.
Yep. So we have been in our most seems to one of the peaks. And so depending on what league it is, there's a cost for that for membership strategies. Such as like our kids going to flag football, we take advantage of the city league, they charge $300 a team. We usually enter 2 or 3 teams. That makes sense.
It does. I just was curious as to why we just want $300 to come in this.
because we've also started to switch. We weren't able to put kids in the league this past year. We've kind of switched some things around regionally for our soccer program. And our basketball. That makes sense.
Yep, that makes sense.
All right.
Is there any money left in the timber fund?
There is, and I don't know the exact amount. I didn't have a tremendous amount to play with, but it might be in the items. And I was saving that for when all of our path and stuff are done to put up kiosks where stuff is located, trails and stuff like that. I've been marking trails. Past fall, I started marking trails within the park with signs and with paint, and we're gonna add some kiosks at the beginning of, and this is when people enter now down Xana, there's a key so they can look to see if that's in the future. I wanted to wait till everything's done before I use the money. I don't know, Mary, how much is left in it. It wasn't a lot, maybe $2,000 left in it. We didn't get a ton to begin with, but we might have spent some money on stuff a while ago. That's my knowledge.
I'm scanning the pages in the town report that like 47, 48, 49, 50 that have a lot of our governmental activities and our enterprise funds and all of our other funds. And I'm not sure I can find it. And we'll try and look into it and see how much there is. When there's a need, we do look at it. When we buy a cruiser and we use the Cortina fund, we get an exact number from the town clerk at that time, but I don't have the number for timber fund. Yeah.
I think it is in there though.
Yeah.
Okay. We are, yes. So we are starting to plan for a replacement up north, which is about a cathedral. Is cost. We actually, I just heard from a pool architect who is putting a proposal to us. We'll have that in the next week or so that we'll have a good idea of what it's going to cost to get some initial plans for the pool. So then we can become more ready for grants and whatever. We can then present this is what we're possibly. You can't go anywhere, just like anything.
My granddaughter's not in.
You need to have an architect and you need to have plans.
But I have to go to.
We can get a proposal, once that comes, we can go to the rec committee.
What would it be under?
It goes on to them to form a committee. Thus.
Planning process, make sure that the architect knows the locations of those drainage.
You can say that. I've spent probably 5 hours now anyway, trying to find the plans for original design of the pool. The bowels of town hall. You've been there before, you know what that's like. I come across a box that has probably 50 plans. Do we feel everything they do? Two pieces of tape that deal with. So I'm still looking to see where it's hidden as far as the architectural plan. I do have a site layout of the pool and where septic is located, where the dry well is located, to backwash. I do have that in the elevation. So I do have kind of like the main plan of what the pool is. So.
From the environmental conservation, we have that plan on.
I was going down to the basement first, and it has a couple listings where it should be, and then you go there and it doesn't exist.
Mike,
So, yeah.
this came up quite a while ago. They found the plans. They were in a box on the stage.
Right, but the boxes, there's no one of those boxes that are on the stage. Boxes are either in the vault, downstairs vault, which I've already combed through, or The blueprint room, for the lack of a better word, is in the very bowels of town hall. I don't know what room that used to be, Byron, but
Girls'
you went
bathroom.
there, so you know, I don't know what it was, but there was something down there.
It was the girls' bathroom.
It was the girls' bathroom? But, so anyway, there's tons of plans in there, and someone has taken the time, I don't know if it was Bill, to look at the plans, write it down, and then there's a sheet with what each number on the plan is, what it represents. And when I look for anything that says pool, I went to look for it and I can't find it. It doesn't exist. Or it's not in that collection of all. So I'll go back again and look again, and maybe I'll be lucky, but I will also try that for the set of plans. But I do have one, the other set of plans is what the actual wall looks like. So cross section of the gutter system in the pool, what's there currently. The other one is a site map of the pool itself with elevations, like I said, where the septic system's located, the lines. I do have one piece of paper. Yes.
Thank you. Progressing, if there is somebody that is here to speak to it, just let me know, otherwise I'll just move on to the next one if there's no questions. Shall the town of Rutland raise by taxes not to exceed $535 and no dollars towards the support for supporting the work of the Vermont Center for Independent Living for the year 2026. Article 7. Shall the town of Rutland raise by taxes an amount not to exceed $670 and no dollars towards supporting the work of the retired senior volunteer service for the year 2026. Article 8. Shall the town of Rutland raise by taxes an amount not to exceed $500 and no dollars towards supporting the work of ARC for the year 2026. Article 9. Shall the town of Rutland raise by taxes an amount not to exceed $1,500 and no dollars towards supporting the work of the Southwestern Vermont Council on Aging for the elderly citizens of Rutland Town for the year 2026. Article 10. Shall the town of Rutland raise by taxes an amount not to exceed $3,000 and no dollars towards supporting the work of the Child First Advocacy Center for the year 2026. Article 11. Shall the town of Rutland vote to raise appropriate and expend the sum of $3,850 and no dollars for support of the partial funding of the Marble Valley Regional Transit District public transit service to the residents of the town for the year 2026. Article 12. Shall the town of Rutland appropriate $4,094 and no dollars to the Chamber and Economic Development of the Rutland region, along with the area businesses and municipalities, with the ultimate goal of growing the economy in our region for the year 2026. Article 13. Shall the town of Rutland raise by taxes an amount not to exceed $4,502 and no dollars for supporting the work of the Rutland Mental Health for the year 2026. Article 14. Shall the town of Rutland raise by taxes an amount not to exceed $8,470 and no dollars towards supporting the work of the VNA Hospice of the Southwestern region for the year 2026. Article 15. Shall the voters authorize the select board to raise by taxes the sum of money not to exceed $15,000 and no dollars for scholarships to be awarded to worthy 2026 high school graduates of the town of Rutland who have resided in the town of Rutland for at least 2 years and wish to attend institutions of higher learning.
Mr. Moderator, just briefly, I would like to speak in favor of this motion. This is $15,000 well spent. As you know, we only have a K through 8th grade here at Rutland Town Schools, so we tuition our students out to area high schools. this is a little bit of money on their graduation that we can send with them and send them off to higher education. We've had some excellent students. We've heard anecdotally about some of them here tonight. And this is our way of supporting our young people and letting them know that their town cares about them, and we want to support their efforts going into the future. So, and it's one of the fun things the select board gets to do, along with broken sewer lines and paved potholes. This is fun because we get to hand out some money to very well-deserving students.
Article 16. Shall the town of Rutland raise by taxes a sum of money not to exceed $15,696 and no dollars towards the operating costs of the regional ambulance service for the year 2026? Article 17. Shall the town of Rutland continue its participation in the Rutland Free Library Association and to raise by taxes an amount not to exceed $113,949 and no dollars for the year 2026? Yes.
If I may?
Yeah.
Randall Smathers, I'm the director at Rutland Free Library, and my laptop just went to the save screen, so you're going to get this all off the top of my head. First off, thank you to Rutland Town for its long-time support. I am happy to tell you that Rutland Town uses our library per capita more than anybody else, and it's not close. And that is whether you go by cardholder or by resident. So congratulations and thank you for using us a lot. Usage is up this past year, 11.2%, which is about 14,000 items. So we are well used and love it. We're asking for a 3.5% increase for all the reasons you just heard from everybody else. Our healthcare is up 7%. We do have a new contract with our employees that has a 3.5% COLA. It's a 3-year contract. We're very happy with that. My board has done a great deal of work to increase the amount of money that they are raising through direct fundraising. So I'm happy to announce that Rutland Town is now I had it on my computer. Let's see, Rutland City is first with 900,000. Second is the amount of money that we draw down from our endowment that's restricted to programming, which is $250,000. We'll be at about $125,000 in money directly raised through fundraising. So that makes Rutland Town the number 4 source of income for the library. It's the first time in many years that it has not been third. And shout out to my board for doing the hard work of doing all that fundraising. It's up 90% in 2 years. So that's a really great thing. Yeah, question. I love talking about the library.
Where's your sweater? We like the sweater that
my sweater's in the laundry. I have a coffee addiction and I spilled some. Next year.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. Article 18. Shall the town of Rutland vote to appropriate the sum of $3,900 to support the program and services of Brock Community Action in 2026? Article 19. Shall the town of Rutland vote to appropriate and expend the sum of $4,500 to support a Wonder Feet Kids Museum to provide services to residents of Rutland Town? Article 20. Shall the town of Rutland vote to raise, appropriate, and expend a sum of $3,000 and no dollars for the support of the Boys and Girls Club of Rutland County to provide services to residents of the town? Article 21. Shall the voters of the town of Rutland authorize an increase in the funding rate of the Fire Department Depreciation Fund for the replacement, repair, and/or maintenance of fire equipment and infrastructure from the present rate of $0.0175 per $100 to the rate of $0.02 per 100 of assessed property valuation?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
If I could direct your attention to pages 37 and 38 of the report. We put aside money in depreciation funds for each of our departments every year. And we do that to anticipate and build up a kitty to buy major equipment. Fire trucks are very expensive. So what we're requesting, and the chief can come up and speak to this if he wishes. What we're requesting is a bump up of how much we put aside every year. Now, BJ had a legitimate question last time, and that is how we have a chart and how we anticipate how much we're going to need from year to year. We have equipment schedules, so we know when the next fire truck is going to be worn out and needs to be replaced. And I think BJ's question was, do we look at increases to the grand list and somehow factor that in? And our answer was no, but we'll take a look at it. We did, and we realized that there's another factor, and that's inflation, that we also did not calculate for or adjust for. So if the grand list goes up, that generates more money into the kitty, but if inflation goes up, which it also will do, that means the cost is going to be greater. So the two kind of balance each other out. So we took your advice, we took a look at it, but we did not change the formula. So that's in response to your question at pre-town meeting. Anyway, I think our last fire truck cost $700,000. Yeah. And they're very expensive. We are putting money aside, but we need to start putting a little more aside, anticipating that the next fire truck is going to be even more expensive. So please do support this. Thank you.
Article 22.
Wait.
Oh, sorry. Didn't see it. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know projected how much money you actually really need? I mean, I did some projections, and in just 4 years' time, with a mere 1% growth in your grand list, you know, you're going to have $1.8 million sitting in that fund. With stagnant growth, with no growth at all in the grand list, you're still going to end up with $1.8 million in that fund by the year 2030. That's only 4 years from now. Now, how many trucks are you going to buy in the next 4 years? That truck's probably cost $1.8 million.
No.
Hey, fighting about this last time.
I'm not
Are you not in the real world and you don't see up in price?
I live in the real world. I buy stuff every day just like you do. And I understand that stuff goes up, but I'm also asking, how frugal are you when you're coming to spec out trucks?
We're very frugal.
Yeah.
We don't plan on buying another truck until 2030. Just need to make sure we have the money for the following truck. That's the truck the next truck you replace, we will definitely have the money. Truck after that, whoever's here, my spot, there will not be enough money to replace it. Did I figure that out?
Yeah.
It's got the last truck. I don't care, it's gonna be 3%.
Byron, I've seen the projections. The answer is yes, we do. Yes, we do project it out. And we have a schedule for each department. And we show when, year by year, when one piece of equipment is going to need to be replaced and how much it's going to cost, and then how much we anticipate having in the kitty, how much the kitty will be drawn down, and then how long it will be before the funds are replenished for the next item on the list. So yes, we do have those. You started it. So we were just following what you started with the highway department.
Okay. Thank you. Article 22. Shall the voters of the town of Rutland authorize the purchase of a new excavator and trailer, the highway department of the town of Rutland for the total estimated purchase price of $165,000 to be paid for by raising the amount of $165,000.
Yes.
So basically in the 4 years that I've been here, we've rented a machine. The first year that I was here, we tried to do it with contractors. And that was always a struggle because they were busy. We would need to do something and they were gone for the month or they were busy for the month. We rented a machine from a company in Middlebury and we rented it for a month. I called them up and said, hey, I need it for another week. And they said, you can't, we got it going out Monday. You got to have it back. So that pushed everything back. And then they didn't have a machine for the rest of the year. It screwed us all up. So I rented another machine the following year from a town resident, $4,000 a month. But I have it at my disposal. At some point, it starts to become ridiculous to spend all that money in rentals when we could have purchased a machine. The highway committee and myself spent a lot of time last year speccing the machine. The machine that we spec is a little bit bigger than the one we've been renting, but the town is getting bigger. We're looking at doing extending some water service work on Killington Avenue up into some of the neighborhoods up there. And I was talking with the city, and they said, well, like this year they've been flat busy with water main breaks and everything. And they're like, if something happens, we're going to need you to kind of deal with your own stuff because we're just not going to have the time. So we decided that we were going to go with a machine that was big enough to suit our needs going into the future, not just for this year. And then we realized next year we should have got a bigger machine. So that's kind of how we got to where we are. Any questions? Oh.
Again, Dave, you haven't proven to me anyways, or I won't support this because you haven't proven to me yet that you're organized enough or whatever to complete a job. This sidewalk project out front here, perfect example. You spent 2 summers doing that project when it was actually a just 2.5 week project. Wasn't necessary. Project hasn't been done correctly. Town lost $47,000 in revenue from the state to help pay for that project. I can't. I don't know what else to say. Keep renting the machine. Prove to me that you're worth the effort, and I'll support it.
When you say that he needs to prove to you,
That
when you say that he needs to prove to you that he's worth the effort, where is the town is worth the effort? So you'd rather see us spend extra money on renting, continuing to rent something that we don't own, and having to work at the whim of others, and in some cases have delayed projects because we have to work at the whim of others, than give the man what he needs to get his jobs done. Is that what you're saying?
how long have you lived in town?
I have lived here for a good chunk of my adult life.
Great. Then you understand that how did these projects get done previously?
As I understand, you were the gentleman who ran all these things, and there are problems with some of the work that you've done. So do we really want to continue that, or do we want to give the man what he needs to do his job?
Somebody else is how you find it.
That's great. You have a vote that says no, and my vote will be yes.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Moderator. All right. Article 23. To elect the following town officers: a town clerk for a term of 3 years, a town treasurer for a term of 3 years, a moderator for a term of 1 year, a grand juror for a term of 1 year, a select board member for a term of 2 years, a select board member for a term of 3 years, a lister for a term of 3 years, a first constable for a term of 2 years, a cemetery commissioner for a term of 3 years, a cemetery commissioner for a term of 2 years, a school board member for a term of 2 years, and a school board member for a term of 3 years. In Article 24, to transact any other necessary legal and proper business which may come before said meeting. This was dated Rutland Town, Vermont, 20th day of January, 2026. That concludes everything.